Thank you for joining us on our Family First Life Tri-State Serve the People podcast. We appreciate you tuning in, spending your time to develop and grow with us. Follow us, please, on all our social media platforms at Family First Life Tri-State or FFL Tri-State. We love you. Keep listening, and I hope this information is serving you across the country. All right, everybody. Thank you for jumping on with us. This is our Your Story podcast, one of my faves. Again, I love these because I get to learn so much about people. I got my man Uri Rodriguez with me today, and he is on. And the truth is that I heard a little bit about his story, which I think is pretty awesome, but I can't wait for him to tell it from the beginning to where he's going to drop it off at. And I'm just excited to get him on because he was a Hall of Fame producer in 2021. He's off to a torrid pace in 2022. He's helping a lot of families, and I think it's long overdue to get him on this podcast. So, Yuri, I got you, brother?
Yes. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure for us. How you doing, my man?
I'm great, man. I'm loving what's going on. Kind of like you said, I hit this year full on, just ready to knock it out and try to hit this Hall of Fame a lot sooner and get this team up and running.
My man, well, it's showing itself, no doubt about it. And, this is one of my favorite podcasts. We don't always get to dig deep into someone's history. There's probably things about my wife that I haven't dug into yet, if that makes sense, as far as time going back. And we used to do this thing called, I don't even know what it's called, but I used to, it was a connection exercise we did. And I would share something about me after age 21 and something about me before age 21. Oh, that's what it was. We'd pick a word off this word sheet. And once we picked the word, we had to share something before 21 and after 21 on that word. She would do the same thing. And we learned so much about each other. But it's the pre-21 that we usually don't know until it's uncovered. And that's what I love about this podcast, is that it does uncover that. So if you could do us a favor, my brother, and walk us down the path, walk us down your journey. What are some of the things that made you the man you are today? We'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. I'll start kind of like when I left high school. Right there, right at the end of high school. I actually was a pretty fair student. I was like a B student, whatever. But in my last year of high school, I kind of got mixed up, I guess, with the crowd. I got kicked out of school, whatever. But I went immediately, and because I didn't want to waste any time, and I went, and instead of taking courses to do my GED, I just took the GED, and I passed it with flying colors. And it actually gave me it gave me this boost of confidence when I was younger that I'm pretty smart. It kind of reaffirmed that I'm pretty smart, despite what like parents tell you, because my parents always poured into me. My parents loved me, and they were, you're the best, you can do whatever you want kind of scenario.
Nice.
But that gave me a lot of confirmation. And after that, I had some jobs in the kitchen here and there. And I went for this real big job at one of the big banks. I'm not going to name names, but I went for the job. I got the job, and it was in a call center doing customer care. And some of the customer care, like at the end of the call, we would have to do some sales and stuff. And I actually excelled pretty well. And I made a great income at a young age of like 19. But I quickly realized I wasn't happy in that kind of corporate environment sitting there. And I wanted to do something more. I grew up a musician, just to back up a little bit.
Really?
Playing drums, yeah. My dad was a percussionist, and since I was like 6 months old, we played music. And I really enjoyed, I grew up just playing all kind of different instruments, and I really got into music. I had a bunch of friends that, I'm 43, so I would like to say I grew up in that golden age of hip hop around the 80s and 90s, sir. Right?
Real good stuff.
I had people that they wanted to spit bars or whatever, and they needed the tracks. And so I used to do beats, and I used to produce, and a lot of my friends from around the way, they were like, "Man, you got real talent. Not like talent like we got. You got real talent." And so I kind of,
wow,
I wanted to see where that would go, right? And so I cashed in my 401 from that corporate job, and I used it to go to Full Sail for recording engineering. And I actually graduated salutatorian, which is right under the valedictorian. The valedictorian was like a genius, but but I graduated right under him. Me and him were really good friends. And I developed a really strong work ethic there at the school to go after my goals and what I wanted. And that was in Orlando. And when I graduated, I moved to Miami to try to work at a big studio over there called Hit Factory. And I didn't get the job when I first went, but I made a good connection with the studio owner and the manager who ran it. And then the valedictorian one day calls me up. This is about 6 months after we graduated. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I got an interview at the place, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to take the job. I'm just going to go out of respect because this studio is like high end. This is where all the top artists record and stuff like that." And he's like, "Out of respect, I'm going to go, but I'm really going to recommend you because I know you live down there, and I can't take the job. I have something else I want to do." And I was like, "That's cool. You know, I already tried to apply for the job. They didn't. They seemed they weren't interested in me, but that's cool. I appreciate it." And sure enough, like a month later, they called me up and they said, "Look, you were highly recommended by this guy, and so we want to give you a shot." Now, mind you, this is entry level at a top studio, and just for a little insight of the music industry, this is grunt work. This is like you know, go get the coffee type of work. This isn't like I get to sit there with the person. This is like the person that's the assistant is sending me to go do something. But
that's great, dude. It's a great description.
So, but I was still humble. I mean, I was humbled by it. You know, I was appreciative to even have that opportunity, and I took it very serious. And they saw very quickly that I was serious about that opportunity, and I was able to actually work my way up to where I had my own office there, and I was an assistant engineer. I stayed there for about 5 years. I ended up having several platinum plaques. I actually have a Grammy nomination. Yeah, I used to actually be there with all the stars that I grew up wanting to work with.
Wow,
that's crazy. Name one, from down from the road from where my dad's generation all the way up to my generation. It's quite an experience. It was a really cool thing. But you know, on the back end of that, I loved doing music, and ironically, in the music industry, all that, you know, accolades. And I wasn't doing music. I wasn't being able to do my music. I was doing somebody else's music. And so, and, you know, at the same time, Baroque.
All those platinum plaques. A Grammy nomination. And see, that'd be hard for people to understand, you know, because it came from a place of like such fanfare, but then behind it, broke. That's when you told me that I was like, what? So I heard the first time you told me that with the Grammy, and then I was like, well, what are you doing here? You know what I'm saying? Like, how'd you find insurance? You know,
I get that all the time.
You know what I'm saying? So continue, brother.
Well, no, but it's I mean, it was just that it was broke, and it was kind of like it started to create a divide as I got older. And I finally decided to leave. I didn't want to do that. I actually had goals. I didn't like where the industry was. It was based more on who you know, and instead of like the skill set that you have or whatever. And so I just started to step away from that, and I went back to my other passion, which was cooking. And cooking is like a natural thing for me. I always grew up watching my mom cook and always asking her questions, and my grandparents was always cooking. So it was just kind of a natural thing to me. When I stepped in the kitchen, it was really easy for me. I'm pretty organized, so it was easy for me to just climb the ranks of the kitchen all the way up to like a chef, executive chef, and up to the point where I was just bouncing from one restaurant to the next after a year of fixing like food cost and things like that, and making sure that it was up and running, or Some places they're really good with concept, but they weren't good with structure and systems in place and things like that. So I helped them set those systems in place, and then I move on to the next one because it's just it gets redundant. And that industry is another one where they kind of beat down on your labor, and they beat down on you, and they suck you dry, and then you're out of energy. And if I look back at what I had to show, it wasn't too much for it. I can cook a mean plate. I
Hmm.
can dissect the sauce if you want me to, but
Hmm.
in the sense of like, am I able to take care of a family or myself? No. And I mean, that kind of starts to bring me to closer to where I'm at right now. Is that at one of the restaurants a couple years ago is where I met my wife, and
It was worth
I
something,
thought,
brother.
oh no, 100%, best thing that's happened to me.
Nice.
Right next to FFL, this is the best thing that's happened to me. Honestly, it changed
Mm,
my whole mindset and actually gave me a new battery pack. Let's say that
nice.
to want to move forward and do good for the future. She had a daughter already, and I fell in love with her daughter and her, and that's my family. And I got married, and that kind of changed everything.
Wow.
That really started that change. But from there, I guess COVID hit. I was
Hmm.
a so okay. Let me elaborate. We got married. I'm in Miami. I'm like, this isn't working. And so I went ahead and moved from Miami to Tampa, which I'm originally from Tampa.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, let's hit this hard. And that's right around when COVID started to happen. And about I don't know, 4 months in, new mortgage,
Huh.
wife pregnant.
Oh boy.
I'm out of a job. I'm
Wow.
out of a job just because the hospitality industry got shut down from COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was kind of stressed. I mean, that's
That
that's
makes
an
sense.
understatement.
That's an
you
understatement. Facts. Facts.
We're not even gonna go to
What?
details, but I was stressed, and I was just looking for a way out, really. But I'm a very positive person. Uh, I know that if I know I was facing changes that was being brought to me, and so that whatever was going to be on the other side of this was going to be better, was going to be exactly what I was looking for, was going to be kind of where my heart was. And so I almost like to think of it wasn't like really COVID's fault. COVID was like a byproduct of me just needing to get out of there
Mm.
and get to that next level. And I think it was, partly that I didn't really have the confidence to leave that scenario to go jump into something else, and God had to like push me into that area. He had to
Mm.
just go ahead and give me a lunge from the back, like, you need to go in this direction. Now you have no other options. Go to this direction. And that's kind of what brought me over to Family First Life. Is that I started to I applied at one of the other companies, one of the captive companies, and they actually said no. They were like, no. And so I guess because I was doing a search on Google and stuff like that, FFL was popping up in my search, and that's how I really got connected with FFL.
Mm.
But that's kind of an overall view of my background right there.
That's crazy. First off, what a lived life. Like you've been in multiple different industries, had multiple different passions, and just find yourself, at ropes end a couple times. It's not that much different than a lot of us, right? Like,
Right,
and then insert life insurance, and you responded to an ad.
right. Craigslist. I'm a Craigslist
Craigslist.
baby. Yeah.
Wow, that is. I haven't heard a Craigslist success story in a very long time. Kudos, and you
Thank
were
you.
recruited by Wayne Carr, correct?
Well, Yeah, I want to say ultimately I was recruited because I never changed teams, but the first person I actually spoke to was Garrett on the phone
Oh, I okay, I remember him.
over in Orlando.
Yes, totally.
And we
Yeah.
had a very solid conversation, but he was very upfront. He was
Mm.
like, what's your sales experience? And I was like, oh, I did a little bit when I was in customer care. And he was like, yeah, well, this is 100% sales, man. I mean, you got to have some tough skin. And I was like, well, I don't have a choice.
All
And
right.
I guess that's what he liked to hear. And they set me up with the course. And, you know, I'm not, I'm not one of those that finish that course quick. There's a couple people that I hire, man. They're done with that course in a week.
Right.
And on the back end, I'm like, wow, these guys are monsters. I took a whole month. I took a month and a half almost to finish that course in the middle of COVID. but on the flip side, I mean, I know that course backwards. I scored a real high score on that test, and but I was really nervous just to start uh, before I grasped the culture that we have, the training that we have, and everything. I was just nervous to even go down that road. But immediately, while I was in the middle of the course, I did a lot of research into YouTube, and I would watch your videos. I would watch Andrew's videos, and I watched some of Sean's videos. And then by the time I actually got my license, I felt like I was already ready to just hit the street running, you know?
That's great, man.
Yeah.
So, you kind of got into it. You finally got licensed, and were you like really excited, or were you really nervous?
I was both.
Got it.
I was both. I was excited because, I mean, those numbers. And then I knew of the research that these numbers weren't lies. I was excited to be able to be in a position that I can help my family like that. And I was excited to honestly break out of those ties from the hospitality industry, because it's hard to get out of that.
It is, man. I grew up in that industry. I got my
Mhm.
culinary degree, and I went into that industry face first. It's hard. It's also a great industry. Like, it's kind of intoxicating. It does sweep you in, and
Yeah.
it pulls you in, man.
Mhm.
It's definitely hard to get out of that industry.
But
Yeah.
it's hard, especially if you're good at what you do, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and you do become very intoxicated by the art. There's so much you can do with food. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's you could just learn a new quiz. Like, you're never gonna be a PhD. You gotta really,
Right.
really, really, really grow. There's so many instruments that you can choose from. So you're right. That's a tough one. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
So, how did you start at Family First Life? Like, did you hit the ground running, or did you sputter a little bit?
So I sputtered a lot of bit.
A
Let's say
lot of
that.
it.
um, when I started with 700 in lead flow, and I got aged final expense.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my first dial day. Man, my first hour on the phone was just like, hello, this is hello. It was just shake voice. I think a couple people booked appointments out of sympathy, just because I was just nervous on the phone. So it didn't start off like just running. I think my first couple months I did about maybe 6 families, which in comparison to where I came from, I was happy because I was helping families, and I was helping my own, and I was better than where I was, but ultimately it wasn't where I wanted to be based off of the numbers that I was seeing. And so um, it just took a lot of change, personal change, for me to
Nice.
sit here and reflect on every day. What is in my way? How do I change this? Am I implementing what the the coaching that people are giving me and those seeds that are sown into me, am I watering those, so to speak? You know what I mean? Am I doing what I need to do to take advantage of this opportunity? So it took a lot of reflection and change. And over the course of, I started in July, and by November, I went from helping maybe about 6, 7 families in July to November helping about 20 families or more,
Wow.
and but November also my daughter was born. So it was like it's like now I got two little girls, and it was just
Jeez.
like fire lit. And since that month I never looked back. I think
Okay, got it.
from that month, I think December I did about 25 families. January I did about 20 families, and then February we went to the convention last year,
Right.
and that's where I learned about momentum, because my momentum, even though I was motivated off of convention, my momentum just took a nosedive. And so it took me a while to get back up. So that February, I think I did like 18 families. I hope like 18 families. And then after that, I went back up. And from there, it's been ongoing success all the way to where I'm at right now. And it's just, to me, I'm still growing. I'm always going to be a student of the game. I'm always watching podcasts. I'm always learning. I'm always talking to others. And that's kind of just the way I started in there, just kind of really slow, but still focused,
So strong.
intentional.
So strong. And again, off to a torrid pace in 2022. What is your agency is budding and growing. What are some of your agency goals for this year and saving agents and helping families?
Well, I'm trying to grow my agency to be roughly helping around 850 a month, 850 families a month, by at least October, November,
Okay.
trying to dive into that million families a month. Hopefully by the start of next year. I'm really trying to focus on my agency building now. I think I got it to a point where I can self-sustain my self-production
No doubt.
pretty well. So I'm trying to do the agency thing and really reaching out on social media and all kind of platforms and just having a lot of conversations.
Yuri, if you think about it, dude, you've had success everywhere you've gone. Like, you figured out each and every industry, and you figured out how to kind of work your way to the top. This is not going to be that different, obviously. And you have the experience now. And, one of the things you said about food costs, like the kitchen is a lot harder than this business. Like, the restaurant business is a lot harder than this business, especially if you run the restaurant, if you're the exec chef and you're dealing with all these things coming in every day and food costs and keeping percentages down and structure. Dude, you will crush this industry versus, what I know about that industry. So, you got your group, FL Blue Collar Legacy, and you guys are starting to make noise. So I really like the prospects of what it looks like for Blue Collar Legacy in 2022. I think you guys can start helping, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 families a month. Easy. We just got to get the agents in place. We got to treat it like your title says, Blue Collar Legacy. And if we do that, we're going to reach more people. You're going to be able to reach more people than you ever dreamed or imagined. And your delivery is so smooth. I don't mean that like suave, but it's just so easy to listen to. You know what I mean? Like, you're transparent with your storytelling. You're going to be able to help a lot of people, my man.
Thank you. And that's my goal, to touch a lot of people, help them, make sure I put people in a lot of better scenarios. Not only just my family, not just the agents I deal with, but also the clients out there that are looking for that help.
No doubt. Thank you so much, Yuri, for joining us. We are, overjoyed to have had you on this podcast. I learned a lot, like I always do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, think about everything you just shared. When would we have this conversation in life? Isn't that crazy? Right. Like, to pull up 20, 25, 30 years of content. It's not that easy to do. So I do appreciate you for sharing. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Keep listening to these. They're great. Yuri, my man, Blue Collar Legacy. Have a great night.
Thank you.